Have you ever felt completely boxed in by the cold, hard facts of your life? A bank account hovering near zero, a dead-end job you can't escape, or a geographic distance that keeps you from the person you want to be with? The mid-century mystic Neville Goddard had a specific name for this condition. He called it the flood. He argued that modern humanity is literally drowning in a deluge of objective facts, victimizing ourselves by constantly bowing to whatever physical reality tells us is true right now. This diagram shows our default approach. We look at a timeline, see our goal in the distance, and accept we must wait for the future to arrive, physically wrestling with facts to drag ourselves forward. Goddard proposed a radically different approach. Present facts are nothing more than past imaginations that have solidified into matter. To create something new, you have to imagine ahead of your evidence. As the poet Robert Frost once noted about the American founding fathers, they didn't believe in the future, they believed it in. To change your physical trajectory, you must turn your back on the objective facts crowding your current environment and step entirely into a new internal state of consciousness. Before you can adopt that new state of consciousness, you have to unlearn almost everything you've been taught about three deeply ingrained words. Those words are sin, repentance, and prayer. Traditional, orthodox definitions frame these concepts around moral failing, intense guilt, and the act of begging an external deity to step in and fix your problems. That framework keeps people trapped in a passive cycle of wishing and hoping. Until these words are stripped of their religious dogma and decoded as mechanical, psychological tools, we remain powerless prisoners, locked inside the limits of our physical senses. This schematic illustrates Goddard's translation of sin. If we strip away the concept of moral failing, the original meaning of the word is simply to miss the mark. If you have a target destination in your life and you haven't reached it, you are currently missing the mark. The exact antidote to missing the mark is repentance. It has absolutely nothing to do with feeling remorse. Instead, it means a radical change of attitude. You execute a complete, recalculating shift in your state of consciousness. The final step is prayer. This isn't a petition to an outside force. It is the subjective appropriation of your goal. You mentally assume that you have already achieved your target, occupying that destination entirely, and simply giving thanks that it is done. Occupying that destination entirely, and simply giving thanks that it is done. Together, these three terms form a mechanical blueprint. You identify exactly what you lack, you radically change your internal trajectory, and you firmly occupy the feeling of the end result. We can see a high-stakes, real-world test of this blueprint in 1943. Goddard found himself involuntarily drafted and trapped inside a U.S. Army barracks. The facts of his situation were absolute. He was physically confined to the base. His application for an honorable discharge had been officially denied by his commanding officer, and there was no logical avenue left for appeal. He applied the mechanical process of repentance. While physically sleeping on a rigid army cot, he imaginatively placed himself thousands of miles away, inside his own apartment in New York City. He required total sensory immersion from himself. He felt the familiar civilian bed beneath him, touched the objects in his room, and completely ignored the sensory data of the military barracks surrounding him. By doing this, he triggered a mechanical concept known as the bridge of incidence. He didn't force any physical actions. He didn't argue with his commanding officers. He allowed reality to naturally reshuffle itself to match his internal ascension. Exactly 9 days later, he was inexplicably called in and granted an honorable discharge by the exact same officer who had previously denied him. The blueprint was complete when he physically returned to the New York City apartment that he had already occupied in his mind. The physical world is ultimately subordinate to a fully realized internal assumption. As the 19th century British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli noted, man is not the creature of circumstances. Circumstances are the creatures of men. Goddard's blueprint extends far beyond simple career or personal goals. The persistent error in human history is looking for a cause outside of ourselves, attributing the events of our lives to a distant external deity or a chaotic sequence of physical accidents. If every physical structure we inhabit started as a mental image, then the imagination is the primary cause of reality. It is the divine creator itself. the eternal I am at the root of human identity. This entire world of facts, from the clothes you wear to the machines that took us to the moon, began strictly as a mental image before it ever materialized. The physical world is just imagination made visible. When you recognize your imagination as this creative force, you shift from a passive victim of a predetermined universe into the active operant power of your own existence. The next time you face an insurmountable wall of facts in your own life, you have a specific directive to follow. There is a crucial difference in your mental posture. You must never think of your desired goal from a distance, looking at it as something separate from yourself. You must always think from the very center of the goal. Bypass logic and reason entirely. Simply assume the exact emotional and sensory feeling you would have if your wish were already fulfilled. When you fully inhabit the end state internally, the external facts of the world have no choice. They must break apart and reshuffle to catch up to your imagination.